Well, hello, welcome to another Facebook Live. It sounds a little bit echoey because I'm in an empty room. As some of you know, if you've been following these recently, I'm staying with a friend and she's just moved into a house and there's basically very little furniture, very little stuff on the walls. So it's very stark at the moment. But I thought I would check in with you. I've just come back from a great weekend in Seattle with some friends out there with Eastlake, and I'm about to go out and see a couple of friends do a comedy show in LA. But I thought before I go and see some comedy, I would talk about something very cheery, namely misery and melancholy. So hopefully some of you will say hi, tell me where you're listening from, ask questions. Basically, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is it's just been something I've been thinking about recently. Freud famously said once that he wanted to turn misery into everyday unhappiness. So that was his view of psychoanalysis in a way, is to take misery and make it into being unhappy. Now that sounds kind of depressing, but if you've heard me before, you'll know that I think it's much more depressing if people promise happiness and certainty and fulfillment and wholeness. That causes so much more anxiety and fear and doubt. And actually there's something very profound in this statement of Freud's, taking misery and making it into everyday unhappiness. Hey, Gabby from Jersey and Jill from Ohio. So what does he mean? Well, I mean, if any of you, and I'm sure a lot of you, all of you, at some point in your life have probably experienced a type of misery. And one of the problems with that is it's so all-encompassing often that you can't think about anything else. It takes over everything. And actually part of the healing process is when you can actually have everyday unhappiness and worry about normal things. For a while you don't care about anything. You don't care about your health, you don't care about what you eat, you don't care about your job, you don't care about money, you don't care about what people think of you. All of that just goes. Those are kind of everyday problems. Those are everyday unhappiness things. Am I exercising enough? Am I healthy? What do my family think of me? How's my job going? All of that. But in misery, those can all disappear entirely. And if any of you have experienced this, it can be a relief whenever you start to worry about things that are normal. It can be a sign of healing. Not when you're happy, but when you start to worry about kind of normal everyday things. It can be positive. But one of the types of misery that many of us face is a strange one. It's called melancholy. Melancholy can be described as getting what you want and realizing it's not what you want. So in melancholy, you may, when you're 17 or 18 years old, maybe if you have a religious background, you may have felt that you want to get married young, have kids, get a nice house in the suburbs, kind of like have all the furniture that you want in that, make that your own space. And that's the object of your desire. That's what you would like. Nothing wrong with that as such. It's just that's what you would like. But then you get it. And you're now 25, 26 years old. You're sitting there. You got what you wanted and you feel depressed. You feel trapped. You feel caged. And you have to medicate in certain ways. And this is very common. And if you want to understand why this happens, one way of thinking about it is making a distinction between the object of our desire and the object cause of our desire. So these are two different things, the object of desire and the object cause of desire. So the object of desire in this example is the kids, the house, the dog, the furniture, the ideal kind of life, right? That's the object of desire. But the object cause of your desire might be to, the struggle for those things. It might be working hard to get to that place. It might be about pleasing and certain people in your life, right? That's the object cause of your desire. So strictly speaking, melancholy is when you get the object of your desire, but you lose the object cause of your desire, right? Or say there's somebody who's an entrepreneur and they're trying to make money and they want to be rich. That the money is the object of desire. But the struggle to get there, the love of the chase, the competition, the back and forth of the, if it's banking or something like that, all that's the object cause of desire. So when the person actually gets their wealth, they feel like they've lost something, but they can't quite put their finger on what they've lost because they've actually got everything they wanted. But what they've lost is, as I say, the object cause of desire. Something that the psychoanalyst Lacan talks about, and that's a technical definition of melancholy. Now, what's interesting, I guess, for us is if we experience melancholy, partly what we have to do is get back the object cause of our desire, and that can be difficult, but. Maybe we think about, well, what was it that made me want these things? And the difficulty is you've kind of got to have both. That you balance the object cause of desire and the object of desire. This plays out in sexuality, where maybe the object of your desire is to have sex with somebody. You desire someone and you want to sleep with them. But the object cause of desire is that something that makes you desire them, that makes you want to sleep with them, right? So the sex as the object of desire without the object cause of desire, the way they speak, the clothes they wear, whatever it is that is the object cause of desire. If you lose that, then the sex is of no real interest at all. So you have this interesting play between these two things. And so in a sense, for me, one of the challenges to make life rich is for us to live in that space between the object of our desires and the object cause of our desires. There's other Facebook Lives where I've talked about the figure of the rebel in Camus. The figure of the rebel for Camus is someone who enjoys their dissatisfaction. So instead of thinking, as soon as I get, say it's a political thing and you're wanting to create a world which is environmentally, sustainable, you're fighting for some justice issue. The problem can be that we're dissatisfied when we don't have it. And then if we ever do get the object of our desire, we can feel like, we can feel happy for a bit, but then we feel like, the celebration seems shallow. Now, the rebel is the one who says, yes, we fight for change, we always move forward, but actually we enjoy the struggle, the dissatisfaction. We are satisfied in our dissatisfaction. We enjoy our everyday unhappiness and the struggles of life. And somehow, instead of seeing them as some negative thing that we just have to put up with while we fight for a cause, while we move forward with what we believe, actually that's part of it. That's part of what makes it enjoyable. And the great thing about that is the rebel's the one then who says there's never an end. There's no utopia where we get to and then we rest and we go, we got the object of our desire. Because if we got the object of our desire, but we lose the struggling and the fighting for it, the getting on the streets and doing things, we lose that. Then we get the object of desire without the object cause of desire. So the rebel is the one who has both of these. Whereas and if you go back to my previous Facebook Lives, I think I did one on this where I talk about the revolutionary is the one who fights for a different world, but they're dissatisfied if they don't get that world, and they're dissatisfied if they do. Whereas the conservative is the one who just tries to accept the world as it is. The rebel is like the revolutionary, the difference being that the rebel says there's no end. There isn't the utopia is in the eschatological dimension, the never-ending movement for transformation in your individual life, in your family life, in your community, the enriching of your life and your community through the ongoing struggle itself. Okay, so there's a few thoughts on melancholy, misery, and everyday unhappiness. Oh, and I will say this, the reason why I like this idea of everyday unhappiness is because this is a bit of unhappiness. Because the point is, you don't quite get what you think you want, which would be awful, but you don't let go of it either. You live in the everyday unhappiness of the struggle. But in doing that, you rob that everyday unhappiness of its misery. And, crazy as it sounds, you can actually enjoy it or be inspired by it or be challenged by it or turn it into fuel for further progress and development in your life. All right, let's see if anyone has anything to say. Annie says, okay, oh, sorry, I just lost your comment there. So how would you define, I don't even know that word, Weltschmerz? Well, I mean, that's probably German and I don't speak German, so forgive my pronunciation. Is that also a type of melancholy based on your definition, or is that more the existential pain of being human? I can't even say it, Annie, I'm so sorry. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look that up after this. I'll look that up while I'm at the show later on. Let's see, what else? Daniel says, I think one of the best explanations of what you're talking about is how Camus describes the myth of Sisyphus, condemned to do the same thing and never achieve it. But the goal is to, as he puts it, and then, sorry, the rest of your comment cuts off. But yes, Camus, I think, is very good in this. I've been rereading Camus recently and I've been really enjoying it. So Camus imagines this, it's a myth where Sisyphus is condemned by the gods to push a rock up this mountain and it rolls back down, and he gives himself to the task. And we imagine Sisyphus happy in that he gives himself to this task. So there's elements of that. Yeah, I think Camus and Freud can be productively brought together. In fact, there's a good book that does that by Adam Phillips called, what's it called? In Praise of the Unlived Life. Something like that. It might not be quite In Praise of the, I think that's the subtitle. In Praise of the Unlived Life. But if you type in Adam Phillips, you'll find it. And he kind of plays with Camus and Freud in a really interesting way. Jim's asking how much for the chair. This is a good chair, actually. I like it a lot. I almost had, there's a dog downstairs, there's a little dog, I love dogs, and it's a white dog, and I'm in my black polo neck, and so on this crazy chair. So I was going to have the dog, and then I would look like a kind of really crappy bad guy from a wannabe James Bond movie. Okay, let's see. Shauna asks, what book would you recommend as a first engagement with Lacan? Yeah, that's good. I'm one of my favourite Lacanians. Well, there's obviously Slavoj Žižek, who I really enjoy, challenged by, but one of my favourites is Bruce Fink. Bruce Fink is a fantastic Lacanian analyst and has written lots of books on Lacan that I think are very readable. I mean, you still have to work, but they're readable. He just wrote a beautiful book on love, looking at Lacan and love. And he wrote 2 volumes they're basically essays and papers that's very good, called Against Understanding. I think that's brilliant. Zizek's book, How to Read Lacan, is a great place to start as well. But yeah, I would pick up pretty much anything by Bruce Fink. I just think he's he translated I think he translated all of Acree into English, and a lot of the seminars as well. So he's like one of the kind of leading Lacanians in the English-speaking world. John says, what would you say to someone striving for success but hoping to not lose their soul in the process? Yeah, and that reminds me of kind of the death drive. The death drive is where you so get caught up in the pursuit that you destroy yourself. You know, you destroy your soul, you destroy your body, you give yourself a heart attack, you do that, which I think is very connected to striving for perfection. There's something unconsciously in you is striving for this thing that will fill you. That's what the rebel is, the one who realizes there's nothing that will do that, and so they break the power of that obsessive striving. I don't know if there's something in this, but the perverse structure in psychoanalysis can be seen as the one where the person is so obsessed with the object cause of desire that the object of desire begins to disappear. So somebody, you want to sleep with somebody, but actually no, you're obsessed with the little detail, the fetish, basically fetishism. You're obsessed with the object cause of desire, and the object of desire vanishes away. So in a way, I suppose the person who's a business person who is like striving, but not actually caring about the object of desire at all is kind of a perverse structure where you're obsessed with the object cause and not the object. I'm just thinking of that off the top of my head, so that could be all wrong. But because the other thing I'm thinking about is what I explore in my book, The Idolatry of God, where I look at how this striving can simply be an attempt by us to find wholeness and completeness, and ultimately be destructive. But that's an obsession with the object. So I suppose you could think of, like, let's imagine a businessman. Is this businessman wanting to get rich? And so he's striving to get rich. Well, he has got this object and he's like, he's going for it. Or is this business person just obsessed with the struggle itself and doesn't care about the money at all? Kind of like almost like a miser or something, doesn't use the money, doesn't do anything with the money, is just obsessed with the object cause of desire. And that causes all kind of problems. So there's this interesting space of accepting the in-between. And by the way, I think if we're striving for money, it's not really a very good object to be striving for. I more want to apply this stuff to the realm of politics. I think it's much more interesting there to think about what it means to be a political activist using this kind of framework. Okay, let's see, maybe one more. Andrew says, what if the melancholy is calling out the illegitimacy of your desire? The illegitimacy of your desire, melancholy. I don't know, because of the way I define melancholy, which is you get the object of your desire, and it's not me, I think that's the Freudian way of thinking about it. You get the object of your desire, but you lose the object cause of your desire. Yes, well then in that sense, yeah, Andrew, you're right. Melancholy kind of does expose the problem with getting what we want. It exposes the illegitimacy of that entire approach. Yeah, no, I think I'm tracking with you. That's very much what I argue. That's why, I in many of my talks and in many of my books, I've talked about the horror of getting what you want. But it's good. It's the moment when you're confronted by the impotence of your desire, and then that can actually lead you to have a better form of desire if you work through it. So yeah, melancholy. If you embrace it, if you start to look at it, if you let it guide you, if you ask why it's there, it can be your guide, absolutely. The problem is if we don't do that, we just stay in melancholy. But if we do look at that, yes, it exposes something problematic. Okay, listen, thank you very much. People have been tuning in there. I usually do these in the morning. I don't know whether I get more people at night or less people at night. But keep tuning in. I've got a few more Facebook Lives I want to do in the next few days, and so I'm gonna try and do that. But in the meantime, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're not in misery. I hope you're not in melancholia. We're all there at times. I've been there, you know, so I may be there again. So hope, you know, take care of yourselves. Thanks for checking in, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.